In a world driven by constant communication, where voices compete for attention and opinions are broadcasted without pause, silence stands out as a rare and powerful force. The ability to remain silent in social and professional settings is often misunderstood. It is frequently associated with passivity, shyness, or disengagement. However, history and psychology suggest otherwise. Silence, when used strategically, can be an immense source of influence, a mark of confidence, and a tool of leadership. From ancient philosophers to modern business executives, some of the most respected and charismatic leaders have mastered the art of silence. They understand that not every moment requires words, and that sometimes the absence of speech can speak louder than the most eloquent argument. Silence can command attention, shift power dynamics, and create an aura of mystery that compels others to listen when one finally speaks. It is an expression of self-discipline, a demonstration of control, and a signal of deep thought. Why do people perceive those who speak less as more authoritative? The answer lies in psychology and social dynamics. In group settings, the person who speaks the least but contributes the most valuable insights is often viewed as the most intelligent and influential. This phenomenon can be attributed to several factors. Scarcity effect, what is rare is valued more. Psychological dominance, silence can create tension and force others to fill the gap. And nonverbal authority, a composed and silent individual often exudes confidence. Moreover, silence is not just the absence of words, it is a form of communication. It can be used to make people reflect, to challenge their assumptions, or to shift the direction of a conversation without explicitly stating one's position. Leaders who understand this use silence as a strategic pause, creating space for deeper thought and compelling others to engage on a more profound level. The social and psychological impact of silence. In social interactions, silence has the ability to influence emotions, expectations, and behavior. It can create intrigue, forcing others to interpret what is left unsaid. This is particularly evident in high-stakes environments such as negotiations, leadership meetings, and conflict resolution scenarios. A well-placed silence can unsettle an opponent, push someone to reveal more information than intended, or allow a leader to control the flow of a conversation without exerting overt dominance. Psychologically, humans are wired to seek patterns and meaning. When someone remains silent in a discussion where they are expected to contribute, others instinctively begin to analyze their behavior. Is this person thinking deeply? Do they hold valuable insights? Are they observing something that others have missed? This mental engagement often leads to the silent individual being perceived as wise, even if they have yet to say anything. This text aims to explore the power of silence in leadership and social dynamics. It will examine how silence can be used as a tool for control, influence, and strategic advantage. Through historical examples, psychological research, and real-world applications, we will uncover the ways in which silence can be harnessed to shape perception, gain authority, and enhance communication. By the end of this discussion, you will understand why silence is more than just the absence of noise. It is an active and intentional force that can shape interactions, command respect, and solidify one's presence as a leader. In a world where speaking out is often encouraged and even expected, the ability to remain silent in critical moments is a rare and powerful skill. Silence is not simply an absence of words. It is an active form of communication that conveys discipline, confidence, and authority. Leaders who master the art of silence are often seen as more in control, more thoughtful, and ultimately more influential than those who speak impulsively. Self-control is one of the defining characteristics of strong leadership, and silence is one of the clearest demonstrations of this quality. Whether in business, politics, or personal interactions, the ability to hold one's tongue in moments of pressure or confrontation is a mark of emotional intelligence and strategic thinking. Many people equate speaking with power, believing that those who talk the most hold the most influence. However, this is often a misconception. Impulsive speech can lead to misunderstandings, unnecessary conflicts, and even a loss of credibility. Leaders who speak without careful consideration risk revealing too much information, making errors in judgment, or appearing emotionally reactive. In contrast, those who practice strategic silence demonstrate control over their emotions and words, making every statement more impactful. The psychological concept of response inhibition plays a key role here. This is the ability to suppress an immediate reaction in favor of a more measured response. When a person chooses to remain silent instead of responding hastily, they create a moment of reflection, not only for themselves but also for those around them. This pause can shift the dynamics of a conversation, allowing the silent individual to gain the upper hand. Silence in communication often signals strength in several key ways. Emotional control. The ability to remain silent in a heated discussion or during provocation demonstrates emotional discipline. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, a composed silence suggests that a person is processing information carefully before responding. Intellectual depth. Those who do not speak unnecessarily are often perceived as more intelligent. Silence gives the impression that a person is observing, analyzing, and thinking critically rather than simply reacting. Confidence. A person who does not feel the need to constantly assert themselves through words appears more secure in their position. Silence suggests self-assurance and an understanding that influence does not always come from speaking the loudest. Strategic advantage. Silence creates discomfort for others, often compelling them to fill the gap with more information than they intended to share. This technique is frequently used in negotiations, leadership discussions, and conflict resolution. Many great leaders throughout history have understood the power of silence as a tool for demonstrating self-control. Abraham Lincoln, known for his thoughtful demeanor, often took long pauses before responding to difficult questions, ensuring that his words carried weight and were well considered. Mahatma Gandhi, a leader of nonviolent resistance, believed in the importance of measured speech and often used silence as a means of introspection and strength. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors, is famous for his ability to listen more than he speaks, ensuring that he gathers all necessary information before making crucial decisions. These examples highlight that silence is not a sign of weakness or indecision, but rather a demonstration of control and wisdom. Understanding when and how to use silence effectively can significantly enhance one's leadership presence. Here are a few scenarios where silence can be a powerful tool. During conflict, instead of reacting immediately to criticism or provocation, a well-timed silence can de-escalate tensions and provide an opportunity for a more rational discussion. In negotiations, allowing moments of silence after making a point can pressure the opposing side to respond, often leading them to concede more than they intended. In decision-making, taking a moment of silence before making a major decision prevents impulsive actions and allows for more thoughtful consideration. To command attention, in public speaking or meetings, strategic pauses can emphasize key points and keep an audience engaged. Many people feel uncomfortable with silence, seeing it as awkward or a sign of uncertainty. However, this discomfort is precisely why silence is so powerful. It creates an unexpected shift in the conversation that others must adjust to. Learning to embrace silence as a tool rather than fearing it is a critical step toward developing stronger self-control. Practicing mindfulness and active listening can help in becoming more comfortable with silence. Instead of rushing to respond, one can focus on observing the emotions and reactions of others, using the pause as a moment to analyze and strategize. Silence is more than just the absence of speech. It is a deliberate and strategic choice that conveys control, intelligence, and confidence. In a world that values constant communication, the ability to remain silent at the right moments sets true leaders apart. By mastering the discipline of silence, individuals can enhance their influence, make more thoughtful decisions, and command greater respect in both personal and professional settings. Silence has long been associated with intrigue and significance. In a world where people are quick to express their thoughts, those who choose to remain silent stand out. Their words, when finally spoken, carry more weight, and their presence exudes an air of mystery that captivates others. This phenomenon is rooted in psychological principles, social dynamics, and the natural human tendency to seek meaning in what is left unsaid. Intrigue is a fundamental tool of influence, often employed by leaders, negotiators, and charismatic figures throughout history. By controlling the flow of information and resisting the urge to overshare, one can shape the perception of others and establish a stronger, more commanding presence. The human brain is wired to seek patterns and fill in gaps in information. When someone remains silent in a situation where a response is expected, the observer instinctively begins to analyze and interpret the meaning behind that silence. This creates a sense of curiosity, making the silent individual appear more enigmatic and therefore more significant. The psychological principles behind this phenomenon include the scarcity effect. People place a higher value on things that are rare. If someone speaks infrequently, Their words are perceived as more valuable and insightful compared to someone who speaks constantly. Cognitive dissonance. When silence disrupts the expected flow of a conversation, it creates a tension that the listener feels compelled to resolve. This can lead them to pay closer attention to the silent person when they finally choose to speak. Perceived depth. Those who speak less are often assumed to be more knowledgeable or contemplative, even if that may not necessarily be the case. Their silence gives an impression of deep thought and consideration. Leaders who use silence effectively command respect and attention. This is because silence creates anticipation. People assume that when a leader finally speaks, their words will be well thought out and impactful. Barack Obama often used pauses and moments of silence in his speeches to emphasize key points and allow his words to sink in. Steve Jobs mastered the art of using silence during product launches, creating dramatic tension before unveiling groundbreaking technology. Winston Churchill, despite his famous oratory skills, knew when to remain silent to let his messages resonate with his audience. Silence allows leaders to cultivate an aura of confidence and wisdom. It signals that they do not feel the need to constantly assert themselves with words, making them appear more authoritative. There are several techniques that can be used to harness the power of silence in everyday interactions and leadership settings. 1. The power of the pause. Strategic pauses in speech can enhance the importance of what is being said. This technique is widely used in public speaking, negotiations, and even casual conversations to create emphasis and give listeners time to absorb key points. Example: a CEO announcing a major decision can pause for a few seconds before delivering the most impactful statement, increasing its perceived importance. 2. Withholding information to build suspense. Not revealing everything at once creates a sense of mystery and anticipation. This technique is often used in storytelling, branding, and personal interactions. Example: when asked about future plans, a leader might respond with a brief statement like, "You'll find out soon enough," rather than explaining everything immediately. This builds curiosity and makes others more invested in the outcome. 3. Speaking less, listening more. People who speak sparingly are often perceived as more knowledgeable and thoughtful. By prioritizing listening over speaking, one can create a sense of intrigue and demonstrate intelligence. Example: a manager in a meeting who listens attentively and only speaks when necessary commands more respect than one who dominates the conversation with unnecessary remarks. 4. The silent stare. Silence, combined with intentional eye contact, can be a powerful tool to assert dominance and command respect. This nonverbal technique is used in negotiations, leadership, and conflict resolution to establish authority. Example: during a high-stakes negotiation, a well-timed silent stare can make the other party feel compelled to speak first, often revealing more information than intended. The social and professional benefits of controlled silence. Using silence effectively can lead to numerous advantages in both social and professional settings. Enhancing personal magnetism. People are naturally drawn to those who do not reveal everything about themselves. A sense of mystery makes an individual more intriguing. Gaining the upper hand in conversations. Those who remain silent longer often have more control over discussions, as others feel the need to fill the silence. Building trust and credibility. Speaking less and listening more creates an impression of thoughtfulness and wisdom, making people more likely to trust one's judgment. Influencing perception in professional environments. In meetings and negotiations, the ability to remain silent strategically can make one appear more competent and authoritative. While silence is a powerful tool, it must be used appropriately. In some situations, excessive silence can be misinterpreted as indifference, weakness, or a lack of engagement. Here are some scenarios where silence might not be beneficial. When clear communication is necessary, in crisis situations or when giving instructions, silence can create confusion rather than intrigue. In personal relationships, while mystery can be attractive, prolonged silence in close relationships can lead to misunderstandings or feelings of neglect. When assertiveness is required, silence should not be used as a substitute for direct communication in situations that demand clear expression of thoughts and boundaries. Silence is an art that, when used strategically, can create intrigue, establish significance, and enhance influence. By understanding the psychological effects of silence and applying techniques such as strategic pauses, withholding information, and listening more, one can cultivate a powerful presence in both personal and professional settings. Those who master the balance between speaking and silence wield an undeniable advantage, commanding attention, fostering curiosity, and ensuring that when they do speak, their words are heard and remembered. Silence is not merely an absence of speech. It is an active force that influences group dynamics in profound ways. Within any social or professional group, silence can establish authority, shift power balances, and even dictate the direction of conversations. Those who understand and leverage the power of silence often emerge as leaders, even without directly asserting dominance through words. Groups operate on unwritten social rules, and one of the most interesting is the perception that the most vocal person is not necessarily the most influential. Instead, those who use silence effectively often command more respect, creating an aura of confidence and control that others naturally respond to. It is easy to assume that the one who speaks the most holds the most influence. However, research in psychology and leadership studies suggests otherwise. In many cases, it is the silent observer who truly controls the conversation by subtly guiding the direction of discussions without excessive verbal input. People seek validation from silent figures. A person who remains quiet in a discussion is often perceived as thoughtful and discerning. Others will subconsciously look for their approval, trying to read their body language for cues. Silence creates anticipation. When a normally quiet person finally speaks, their words carry more weight because they are unexpected and seem carefully chosen. Observational advantage. Silent individuals tend to notice details that others miss, allowing them to intervene at the right moment with meaningful insights. Control through restraint. By not responding to every point in a discussion, a silent individual forces others to work harder to engage them, subtly placing them in a position of higher status. Leadership is often associated with speaking confidently and inspiring others with words. However, some of the most effective leaders use silence strategically to command authority and create space for deeper conversations. 1. Silence as a sign of confidence. A leader who does not feel the need to dominate a discussion with constant talking appears more self-assured. Silence can demonstrate a lack of insecurity or desperation for approval, a strong internal presence that does not require external validation, an ability to listen actively, making others feel heard and valued. 2. The power of deliberate pauses. Pausing before responding in a conversation can create a sense of gravity and control. This technique is particularly effective in high-stakes meetings, negotiations, or group discussions where leadership presence is essential. A pause forces others to reflect on what was just said, increasing the perceived depth of the silent person. It can create a psychological gap where the speaker starts second-guessing themselves, giving the silent listener an advantage. Silence before a response makes the following words seem more intentional and well thought out. 3. Guiding group conversations through silence. A well-placed silence can steer a discussion without direct intervention. By remaining silent during a debate or brainstorming session, a leader allows others to speak freely, often revealing deeper insights or even shifting their own opinions in the process. Silence forces others to fill the void, often leading them to reveal more information than they intended. It can de-escalate conflicts by preventing immediate emotional reactions. It encourages participation from quieter members of a group who might not otherwise get a chance to speak. Silence in different types of group interactions. The role of silence varies depending on the group setting, but its influence remains consistent. Below are key examples of how silence plays a role in different types of group interactions. 1. Silence in corporate meetings. In boardrooms and team meetings, silence can be an asset when used strategically. Executives and senior leaders often use silence to give employees space to voice their ideas without interference, signal that they are considering information deeply before making decisions, create an aura of authority by not rushing to respond. 2. Silence in social circles. In informal social groups, silence can shape how individuals are perceived. Someone who speaks less is often seen as more mysterious and intriguing. Silence can create a perception of higher status, as talkative individuals often seek approval from quieter members. The silent person becomes an object of speculation, making them more memorable. 3. Silence in conflict resolution. During arguments or tense discussions, silence can be a powerful way to de-escalate tension. Instead of engaging in emotional outbursts, a well-timed silence allows emotional intensity to decrease before a rational discussion can take place. The silent individual to maintain control over the situation rather than reacting impulsively. While silence is a powerful tool, it is important to use it wisely. Silence can be misinterpreted in several ways. As disinterest or disengagement, if used excessively, silence may make others feel ignored or undervalued. As passive aggression, in personal relationships, remaining silent for too long can create resentment rather than intrigue. As indecision, in leadership roles, failing to speak when a response is needed can lead to confusion and uncertainty. To avoid these pitfalls, one must learn to balance silence with engagement. The key is to use silence selectively and intentionally, rather than as a default response to every situation. For those looking to harness the power of silence in group settings, here are some practical strategies. Practice active listening. Instead of planning a response while someone else is speaking, focus entirely on their words. This enhances understanding and makes one's eventual response more impactful. Use nonverbal cues. Silence does not mean disengagement. Maintain eye contact, nod in agreement, and use facial expressions to show involvement. Master the art of the pause. Before responding, take a few seconds to process the discussion. This makes one's words seem more intentional and meaningful. Let others speak first. In meetings or social gatherings, allow others to express their thoughts before contributing. This gives the advantage of knowing their positions before taking a stance. Know when to break the silence. While silence is powerful, knowing when to speak up is just as important. Strategic speech combined with strategic silence creates a dynamic presence. Silence in group dynamics is far from passive. It is an active tool for influence, control, and leadership. Whether in corporate meetings, social gatherings, or conflict resolution, those who master the art of silence command more respect and authority. By balancing when to speak and when to remain silent, one can shape conversations, build credibility, and ultimately emerge as a more powerful presence in any group setting. Silence is often perceived as passive, yet it is one of the most potent tools of psychological pressure. In conversations, negotiations, conflicts, and interpersonal dynamics, silence can create discomfort, provoke reactions, and exert control without a single word being spoken. Unlike verbal confrontation, silence carries an ambiguous weight that forces individuals to fill in the gaps, often revealing more than they intend. Mastering the art of strategic silence allows individuals to influence others subtly, whether in business, relationships, or leadership. This chapter explores how silence can be employed as a form of psychological pressure, its impact on human behavior, and how to use it effectively without crossing ethical boundaries. Human beings are naturally inclined to seek certainty and resolution in communication. When faced with silence, especially in high-stakes interactions, people experience psychological discomfort. This discomfort arises from the need for closure. People crave resolution in conversations. Silence disrupts expected dialogue patterns, compelling individuals to resolve the perceived tension. Cognitive dissonance. When silence contradicts social expectations, it creates an internal conflict, making people question their own words or actions. Heightened self-awareness. When someone remains silent, the other person becomes more self-conscious, scrutinizing their own words and behavior. The fear of rejection or disapproval. Silence can imply judgment, making individuals feel insecure about their position or statements. These psychological effects make silence a powerful force in social and professional interactions, influencing decisions, behaviors, and even power dynamics. Silence in negotiations, gaining the upper hand. In negotiations, silence can be a strategic weapon. Skilled negotiators understand that moments of silence create unease, prompting the other party to offer more information or concede ground. The strategic pause. When an offer or proposal is made, remaining silent forces the other party to justify or adjust their stance. The fear of rejection or an unfavorable response often compels them to make concessions. The echoing silence. Instead of countering immediately, pausing after a demand or question makes the other party reconsider and potentially lower their own expectations. The waiting game. Silence can be used to stall or create pressure, making the other side anxious to conclude the deal. Silence can be more intimidating than words in confrontational situations. By withholding immediate responses, one can assert dominance and control over the interaction. Asserting dominance. In arguments, the person who speaks the least often holds the most power. Silence signals control and emotional restraint, forcing the other party to react more emotionally. Breaking the momentum. Heated debates rely on continuous engagement. Silence disrupts this flow, making the opposing side reconsider their stance. Forcing self-reflection. In personal conflicts, silence can make the other person reflect on their actions and words more than an immediate rebuttal would. Example, in a disagreement, instead of arguing back, remaining silent with a steady gaze can make the other person uncomfortable, often leading them to soften their stance. The silent treatment, emotional manipulation or boundary setting. Silence can be used as a tool for emotional manipulation in relationships, often referred to as the silent treatment. This technique, however, walks a fine line between psychological pressure and toxic behavior. Withholding communication to control. Refusing to speak to someone as a means of punishment creates an imbalance of power and fosters emotional distress, creating anxiety and doubt. Prolonged silence in response to confrontation can make the other person feel insecure or guilty, even if they have done nothing wrong. Avoiding accountability. Using silence to escape responsibility prevents resolution and prolongs conflict. Refusing to engage in toxic conversations. Silence can be a tool for self-preservation when dealing with manipulative individuals. Allowing space for reflection. In difficult discussions, stepping away and using silence can help both parties process emotions before responding. Reducing escalation. Instead of engaging in unproductive arguments, silence can signal a refusal to engage in negativity. Great leaders understand that silence can be more commanding than constant speech. When used correctly, it enhances authority and influence. Silence is an art that, when mastered, can shape conversations, influence outcomes, and establish authority. Whether in negotiations, leadership, conflict resolution, or personal relationships, knowing when to remain silent can be more powerful than knowing what to say. By understanding the psychological effects of silence, applying it strategically, and using it ethically, individuals can harness one of the most understated yet compelling tools of influence and control.